Welcome to Smackey's Garage. Today we're going to be replacing the tail lamp wiring on the 1969 Mustang behind me. This wiring runs from all the way up front under the dash, all the way to the rear of the car. So we're going to have to take a few things apart to get to it to replace it. Now this car's a 1969 Mustang. That means it's 55 years old. The wiring in the car up in the engine bay has mostly been replaced. Under the dash is still original, and this tail lamp feed is also still original. So I'm thinking what we're gonna do is take it apart and inspect it, see if it needs to get replaced. Truth be told, I already bought the harness to replace it, so we're gonna end up replacing it. We'll take a look at what a 55-year-old harness looks like after sitting in the car forever. I haven't been having any issues with this wiring, but I'm kind of taking a preventative step to make sure that if it does start cracking, if it does end up shorting, a fire doesn't happen, because that's the last thing that I want to happen is an electrical short and a fire. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pull this apart. Now, the first place I'm gonna inspect on the wiring is right in here in the door jamb. The wiring, it runs essentially underneath this panel here and runs to the back. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take these screws out and we're gonna take a look at how the wiring looks. Now, when I put this together, you can see I ran it through this looming here that goes all the way from the front to the back of the vehicle. This is not going to be original to the car, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look inside here at what the wiring looks like before we replace it. Now, to connect the wiring up, it's actually up and inside here, so this also needs to come off. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to first take some of the wiring out of here, and then we'll take a look to see what it looks like. Now the wiring in here doesn't look that bad. I mean, one of the things that you'll notice, it is pretty stiff from being in here for such a long time, but it's a straight runner wire, so you don't expect it to have too much damage to it. You can kind of see the original colors of the wire there. You can see some of it, and you can see it's in this looming, but we're gonna trace it back all the way to the rear and then see how everything looks. Now, to hold this up, you need a strut rod. I do not have one. All right, so you can see the wiring comes through up there, zip tied up top, and then down around to here. These have definitely seen better days. These are the things that hold the bulbs in place on the rear of the car. I actually think they've fallen out a few times, so they are probably good to be replaced. And the new kit does come with a new set of these. So everything runs this way across, and then over to here on this side. Now the wiring doesn't look too bad, but you can definitely see in areas that it is starting to crack and fall apart. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna disconnect everything back here and then start taking it apart. All right, now I pretty much have everything disconnected in here. You have to take out the grounds and you have to take out a few of the different connectors that are going to the reverse lights. But after those are done, everything just pulls out. And then the last thing that I need to take care of is the fuel tank level sensor. That is pretty much underneath this carpet. There's gonna be a piece that goes underneath the car and into the sensor itself. So we're gonna go ahead, pull that out, then we should be good to start taking this apart. Now, underneath the car on the gas tank, you can see where that goes through. It comes through right here into the tank. This wire is also, looks like it's taking a nice sharp angle up there, so who knows how good it actually is. So we're gonna end up taking this off and replacing it. So now that this is out, it should just push up and through. All right, so now I gotta take this off, which luckily for me wasn't bolted on. But now we can see this is running up into here and down back here. So I am going to hope that this wiring is plugged in here and not behind the dash. So it's going to take some fiddling with to figure out exactly where this is going. It's gonna be fun to see where I can figure out where this is plugged into. But I can see as I move this is moving as well. Now the good news on this is the wiring is up and underneath the dash here, so there's only a few different connectors that I need to remove, and then I should be able to pass it through to here and pull this out. I mean, you can, I don't know if you can see it from there, but these wires here are going to this down here. So it's gonna be a little bit more challenging to get it back up and into place, but I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna disconnect the two that are under here, and then we're gonna go ahead and pull this all the way through the rest of the car. So if you see these wires here, I pull it down, you can almost see the connector up in there. Okay, so both of these connectors are out. I should be able to just pull them through now. It's definitely gonna be harder to get them back in, but now I'm gonna go ahead and feed them through this, and then we're gonna pull everything out and inspect the wiring. Okay, so it's definitely zip tied somewhere in this rear inner panel here. So this inner panel here is gonna need to come out because what I'm finding is this is not going through, so it's either jammed or it's zip tied somewhere in there. And it also feels like taking that inner panel out is probably the best way to do it. That way I can make sure that nothing's rattling in there. Now to take that inner panel out, I just need to take some screws out. I need to take the seat out, which just pulls forward, but shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so looking in here, you can see there's a few places it's connected. One, it's connected over here, and then the other, it's back there. I also need to make sure I disconnect the sail panel light from up there if it's going into here, so I gotta pull that out too. You know, I was able to just move this a little bit out rather than all the way, because it looks like one of the screws up back there isn't fully tight, which is, I guess, good for me, but we'll have to fix that later. All right, so I can see the bullet connector here for the sail panel. So I need to take that up. All right, we have all the wiring out. Now let's go ahead and take this apart, inspect it together. It's been in the car for 55 years. Let's see how well it's held up. All right, so the wiring isn't in bad condition. Everything's still in one piece. There aren't any like major cuts. The only thing I noticed is the gap here. So the insulation's getting pulled back on this wire. And this is probably one of the worst areas. So this is the area that plugs in under the dash. So this is the original covering that was on it at one point. It's been replaced with this looming and completely taped up. I've done a pretty good job at taping everything up here up to the point where this tape is pretty hard to get off, and I'm not gonna take it all the way off because it is still a working harness and I wanna be able to put it away in a safe spot where I could use it if I ever needed to quickly. So I think the biggest things that I noticed was just that issue with the connector, and then this plug here that goes into the fuel system. So outside the car, it's completely solid. So this isn't gonna seal up. And some of these connectors here that go to the taillight bulbs, these are actually falling apart. So this plastic is just so old and so brittle that it's starting to crumble. So glad that these are all getting replaced. Now what we're replacing it with is a completely OEM style or almost concours style harness for the car. So wire colors are correct. Everything should be the same when we put it together, but we're gonna have to check that. All right, so let's go ahead, start at the front, make sure everything looks correct. So we have the two connectors here, which are the two 3-pin connectors. These are going to be the same as these. So these are correct. Then it goes through. We do have this pin here. So this is probably to secure it, which is really nice to have. The last one didn't have it, so that will help out. So it goes through the door sill, going through the door sill, up and into the quarter. This goes to the light in the sail panel on the driver's side, goes further into the rear of the car. This wire is for the fuel level sensor, so this goes into the back. Then we have 3 connections each. So this is the side marker light, this is the turn signal rear light, and then this here is for the backup light. A little bit further, we have the license plate light here, and then we have a ground which connects back by the fuel filler. And then we have the same on the passenger side. So reverse light, side marker light, rear light. It looks like everything is the same as the cable that we pulled off. So now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna start running this through the car. And I think the way that I'm going to do it is start from the back and then run this from the back forward, just because I feel like it's going to be easier. All right, so wiring is now ran from front to back. It's not fully tucked in there, but you can see down here, it's plugged in, it's connected. You know, that piece that I had, so that little clip for the wire actually goes right here on the inner. So on the upper part of the door, there is the wire. It connects literally right there. It's kind of hard to see, but that clip is in there. I actually found the original one in the car when I was taking it apart. So that's all connected, runs up and through the dash to there. Those need to be pushing a little bit more, but everything is ran from front to back now. Now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna check to make sure that the wiring works before we put everything in. So we're gonna put some bulbs in it to see what happens. All right, so the wires run back here into the trunk. I've got a bulb here, a bulb over there, somewhere down there. And then this is grounded to the chassis back here. So now everything should work if I turn on the flashers. All right, so it looks like the lights are working, so that this is good. So now I can get the rest of everything plugged in and where it should be, and then we'll check it out. Now these are going to go to the reverse lights, which are down in the corners down there. This bulb is going to go to the side marker lights, which are on the side of the car, and then I got to reconnect up that blue connector right there, which is the connector for the sail panel. Now the reason why I'm doing it this way before I connect everything to the chassis is because I want to make sure everything's long enough and is reaching the right places. Hopefully we'll get to a point where everything just falls into the right place and I can either zip tie it or attach it to the locations where it's going to stay still. All right, well, everything's now wired in. You can see we get the tail lights all wired in. Side marker lights are down there and wired in. Kind of hard to see. Ran the wire for the fuel level sensor down underneath here into here and then to the fuel tank. And then this side is all in as well. So that's connected and then grounded here in the center with the license plate light connected. All right, so we get the blinkers on. You can see the lights are lighting up back here. It's actually a little bit brighter than I think it was before, probably just because of the grounding issues that I've had, but that light's on, these are on, license plate light is on. The only thing I really haven't been able to check is the reverse lights, but we can check those later. And then on the interior, sail panel light is on and everything is kind of tucked away in here. So I did end up taking off this panel just to get a little bit more access in here. I need to clean everything up. Now I'm gonna leave a lot of the back of the interior still in pieces because I need to spend some time cleaning that up and getting everything back together. All right, so it wasn't that big of a project to replace this, but it was something that was definitely necessary. Now looking back on it, you know, you had that plastic looming, which was there to protect because the old cloth covering was gone on the wires. Now with a full replacement from the dash back, less to worry about. Don't have to worry about any shorts. Everything's reconnected and ready to go. Thanks for tuning in this week on Smackey's Garage. I'll see you next time.